you probably jump on that as a passenger if it's a two-seater bike, and you're just thinking, yeah, it's nice to be ridden around, right? You're just not conscious of you ever wanted to ride a bike. You're totally unconscious and you're incompetent. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's bring it back to the sales concept here. Some of the things you're going to be learning, some of the muscles you're going to be starting to form. I think there's okay, it's good now. Yeah, some of the muscles which you're going to be forming, you're going to be totally unconscious of that, but that's fine. It's good to be at that stage. You're then going to go into the conscious competence, which is the yellow, right? So we just done the purple, the yellow. The yellow is where you're conscious that you're not competent, right? So because you've seen your friends and everyone riding a bike, you're now thinking, oh right, I actually cannot ride a bike. So you're conscious of that. So now you're going to be going for a stage where you're going to be thinking, I'm not conscious of building my sales playbook or my sales go-to-market plan. But that's a good stage to be at, because you're conscious that something needs to be built, but you don't know where or how to start. That's great. You're going along that kind of 4-stage learning cycle. Then you move on to the conscious competence. So again, coming back to the bike scenario, you've moved past the stage where you're thinking, I want to be able to ride a bike. How do I ride a bike? To now being, oh, okay, I can ride a bike now. I know that skill. I know how to jump on the bike. Yes, I've fallen off a couple of times, got a couple of scratches here and there, but I could actually ride a bike, right? But when you're riding that bike, you're conscious the fact that you've just learned it, but you have to be able to know when to stop, when to brake, so on and so forth, right? So again, in the sales concept, you get to the point where you do things conscious that you're doing things, conscious that you're speaking to a buyer, conscious that you're speaking to a potential, you're in negotiation, but you're conscious that you're at that stage. I encourage everyone to be at that stage when you go through this learning curve, be at that conscious competence stage. And then finally, once you've mastered the skill, and you can do things in your sleep, as they call it, right? You can ride the bike. I'm not going to say close your eyes, ride the bike, but you're a very confident rider. You get to that point where you're unconscious competence. You can actually do things automatically, right? And in the sales scenario, you've just been in so many experiences that when you're coaching somebody, one of your staff members, or when you're building your plan, you just know that, no, this is not going to work, or this is going to work. Call it discernment, but it's unconscious competence. Why am I showing you this? I'm showing you this because over the next 4 sessions, you're going to be going through this learning curve, or this 4 stages of learning, even beyond the 4 sessions, and just be mindful of where you are at any given point, in that journey. Okay, so we move on. Next slide. The course has been designed in such a way that I've taken on board the feedback that you shared with us in the Google form. I founded Africa Sales Academy, and I'll tell you about that very shortly. But what we really value is building correct attitude, procedures, and practical tools to help you grow as a business and as an individual, and also to help you grow your revenue ultimately. But to be able to do that, you need to have certain principles in place. Certain things has to be foundational. That's with everything. Building houses, right? Building businesses. It's impossible to grow and build and scale something without having the foundational key pillars in place. So the thing you're going to be able to take away from today's session and the 3 other sessions following today is practical tools, applications, and also any materials that would enable you and support you through this journey. Okay. The key thing here is we encourage all our learners not to be average. There are many average businesses out there, sales executives out there, sales VPs, CROs, right? Or very, very average. We want everyone to be elite, right? Be part of that 1% or that 5%, because everything you do has to be at that premium level. That's the only way that you set yourself apart, because otherwise everybody else, is in the average zone. So we encourage you to put in the work and get to the elite stage. Okay. Before I go on to some of the results from the Google form survey, can I just pause there and see if there's any questions? If you have any questions, please raise your hand. And if I do look away, it just means that I'm looking at my other screen, because all the profiles on my other screen. So I can't see any hands raised yet. So if not, then I will I'll crack on. And in case I haven't, if you have got your hands up or thumbs up and I haven't seen it, please feel free to come off mute and interrupt, and I'll happily let you speak. But as no one is on video, I'm also going to come off video. I think it's only fair. Okay. Okay. Right. So these are your responses. We had about 20, and thank you so much. It's a good volume to glean some insights from. So let's run through that. So if we look at the top right, maybe it's your left, right? It says, do you have a sales playbook designed for your revenue growth? 55% of the respondents says no. It's not surprising. I do this whenever I train, and the vast majority will say no, we don't have a playbook in place. And I'll explain what a playbook is, and I'll explain what a go-to-market plan is very shortly. Have you mapped out your buyer process? Vast majority says no. Again, no surprises, right? Because if you've never done it before and gone through the exercise quite detailed, then you're going to be in the obviously the majority. And again, it's fine, because the goal here is to encourage you, to give you the practical tools to be able to design one yourself. Think about it as you build it once, you use it many, many times. So that effort that goes in initially is definitely worth your while. What's the biggest challenge facing your sales team in the area of selling your, it should say products and services, but it just cut off slightly, apologies. Again, you can see overwhelmingly 30% says insufficient prospects to sell to, I think is what it says. Then we've got 25% building champions to, to help with your opportunities progression. And of course, you've got the rest dealing with price and objections. And, if we take the first three, we're going to handle the price and objections I think in our fourth session, right? The insufficient prospects, we're going to address that. And then, of course, building champions as well. We talk about champions and coaches. That's also going to be talked about. But some of the other areas as well are going to be covered, right? So everything that you've offered in terms of feedback, we're going to touch on those things. Again, I'm mindful that we only have 4 sessions, and it's 2-hour session, and therefore we can't cover everything. I usually do this in 2 or 3 days, 9 to 5 sessions. But I'm going to try my hardest not to give you, offer an information overload, but keep it practical to the point where you're able to absorb it. The other question was, do you have an ideal customer profile? Again, the vast majority says no. Have you had training in the past, sales training in the past? Yeah, again, it's a fair split. But what's really telling for me is the top left, right, where it says, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to sales and revenue growth? And the vast majority says not having a clear sales go-to-market plan. Another one says managing opportunities in your pipeline. So clearly there's a theme here. The theme that I'm sensing is there's no playbook for the majority. There's no sales go-to-market plan for the majority. And you are working on deals, you are working on opportunities, which is fantastic. But I think there are some challenges around maybe closing those deals or trying to know sources and channels where you can find those opportunities. Because if you spend your time looking for the wrong things, then you're wasting your time. But if you spend half that time looking for the right thing, then the return is going to be quite significant. So the goal here is to help you look in the right places and therefore maximize your time. Because the last thing you want to be doing is chasing opportunities and deals that are never going to close, right? Because you can never get that time back. So that's what I'm going to encourage you, and we're going to be doing. Okay, so we're going to go straight into the agenda for the next 4 sessions, including today's session. But let me run you through what is a playbook and what is a go-to-market plan, right? So a sales go-to-market plan is effectively a plan that covers everything from, all different business units and departments to take your product or service to market. So it encompasses, the sales team, the marketing team, the customer success team. If you've got professional services, if you've got operations, every team, and hence why it's called the sales go-to-market team. It's not just sales, because salespeople cannot be successful without the rest of the team supporting us. So that's what that is, right? And I'm going to run you through a methodology that has been adopted by many firms, successful firms, that I think is applicable, and you can also use it in your business to build your go-to-market plan. A sales playbook, to be very specific, is specifically relating to your sales, right? Not so much the go-to-market team. So a sales playbook, we think, is designed to help salespeople find a way of selling in your organization. Every organization, every company, every startup, every scale-up, every corporation sells differently, but the foundational elements tend to be the same. So a sales playbook is just things like, how do I look for prospects? When I get a prospect, how do I do a discovery call? How do I find coaches? What are the systems that we use in the sales team? What CRMs do we use? So on and so forth, right? So that's the difference. Sales playbook, more aligned to sales, and for your sales team, sales go-to-market plan is everybody that helps you take your products to market. Okay. Can I get a thumbs up just to make sure that you're hearing me right? I'm touching on some good points, but we're just about to go into the meat and bones. So yeah, if all is well, I'll crack on. But if you have any questions, I can see there's something in the chat. Okay, it's fine. That was just somebody saying we can see what screen. Okay, great. All right, so let's look at the agenda now. And again, I can't see. So please, if you have any questions, I say unmute yourself and interject, because I can't see your different profiles. So just as a heads up. So today we're going to be covering V2MOM. That's the methodology that I'm going to be running you through. We're going to be covering metrics for success. What you can't measure, you can't grow. So we need to make sure that there's a science to the art of selling, and I'm going to be explaining that to you very shortly. We'll touch on your value proposition, and there'll be a task, by the way, for every single one of these. And I think session 2 will cover research and insight, buyer behavior, and then sessions 3 and 4 we'll delve into value proposition presentation, creating your business case, negotiation, handling objections, and asking for the business. Now, if you've seen and if you've noticed the way the lessons have been curated, or let's call it the pathway, it's everything you need to do from end to end, right? From, even if you're not in sales and you want to get into sales, it gives you guidelines from where to start to asking for the business. Every single step in that way will be covered somehow. It may not be as detailed given the time that we have, but at least you get an insight into the requirements and the expectations of your buyers and of sellers. Okay. Right, so I'm going to dive straight in, tell you a bit about myself, because I think it's always important to know who you are talking to or who's representing as the coach. And what you're seeing there is places that I've worked in, some of the things that I'm involved in, and how I ended up in terms of what I'm doing right now. Very quickly, I was born in London, grew up in Ghana, went to primary school in Ghana. I went to secondary school in Ghana. I went to St. Augustine's College. Any other KIPCOs, alumni there, you're probably going to be, if you're not from, if you didn't go to Augustine's, I can hear you screaming, saying, boo, boo, boo. But hey, I went to Augustine, so any Adisidel or KIPCO schools, We were rivalry, but we're friends now. Okay. Um, I came to London. I came back to London when I was 17, and I've been in London ever since. I did university in London, and I've worked from the age of I started working from the age of 18, but more formally from a professional perspective from the age of 25, which is 2005, right? So I've been in work ever since that time, and all I've done is I've done B2B sales. Before I finished university, I was doing B2C sales, but since 2005, all I've done is B2B sales. A lot of it in tech. So you can see some of the brands that I've had the privilege of working with, Salesforce, Oracle, Actifio, Medallia, Diligent, Rackspace, and I've picked up learnings from every single one of these places that I've worked, whether it be the VP that I reported into, whether it's a colleague that I worked with, and I've compiled all these learnings into some of the lessons that we're going to be running through. Okay, a lot of these companies are leaders in their space. If you follow Gartner or Forrester reports, you see some of these companies as the leaders, right? Rackspace, Salesforce, Oracle, they're the leaders in what they do. And therefore, if you're a leader, there are some basic things that you need to have in place. And that starts with, systems, processes, people, and methodologies. And these guys are, some of these companies, or most of these companies, are maniacal when it comes to having a blueprint in place for success. So I encourage you to start thinking blueprint, build something that your employees or your staff will follow, essentially. Because if you're not there, they can't be calling you or texting you. They know the blueprint and they'll just follow it naturally. So I encourage you to do that. So very quickly, I've been working since 2005. A few years ago, obviously, whenever I'm in Ghana, I come to Ghana quite often, once a year usually. I used to spend a lot of money. I think from like 2012, I had that realization of, like, whenever you're in Ghana, you're just spending money, and you got to find a way to make money when you're in Ghana, right? My mindset was money, money, money at the time, but very quickly changed from making money to more purposeful, more fulfilling stuff, right? Because I was talking to a lot of contacts. I was speaking to young people, semi-matured individuals, leaders in different spaces, and the resounding feedback that I was getting was that, obviously the unemployment rate, I know it's quite high across Africa in general. It was the same for Ghana. University leaders are taking up to 6 years to find jobs in their space. But what I found was there were raw talents. We're very talented in Africa, in Ghana, if I can be very specific. And what we lacked was a bit of mentoring, a bit of coaching, and some opportunity to learn, right? So I thought, okay, this is more than I thought, right? So I started thinking, what are my strengths, right? My strengths are, I love coaching, I love giving back my time, I love mentoring. I've been doing sales for B2B sales for 18 years. I love all things sales. I've been in tech for a long time. So then I thought, why don't you just combine all these things together, Mike, and just build something that would last, right? We're thinking something that's a legacy building here. At the same time, I thought, let me look at the market. Let me see some of the trends. Where's the market heading to? And I realized that there's a significant amount of investments going into businesses across Africa. If we think about COVID-19 meant that venture capitalists, private equity firms reduced their investments across their portfolio. And this is global. But when I look at Africa, it increased. Like, we were quite steady. It didn't plummet. So what that was telling me was they know something that perhaps some of us do not know. They know we're going to have and we're going to have the biggest, talents source over the next 7 years. If you think about the amount of young people, perhaps probably under the age of 30, we're going to have the biggest concentration in Africa. Infrastructure is improving, year on year, and they're putting their money there, expecting a return. Now, let's look at what function in businesses enables growth. Now, I talked about the sales go-to-market team. You can say everybody, every function contributes, and I agree with that statement. But then there's a particular function that is tasked with bringing in revenue, and it's the sales team. Yes, some people, a lot of individuals shy away from using the terminology or the title sales executive or sales professional or salesperson. But naturally, we all sell, but there are salespeople. So I thought, okay, if these investors are putting money into African businesses and they expect a return, then the growth enabling these businesses needs to be enabled. Because currently, there aren't that many specialist sales training companies across Africa. There are some, but not that many. So I set up Africa Sales Academy. And as you can see, selling with EQ, right? I believe empathy will take you far. And all the best salespeople I've worked with, they sell with empathy. They have an art of selling and they back it with a science of selling. And the two combined is an unstoppable force. So we set up this academy. It's been running for a year and a bit now. I've trained a number of execs across Africa. I'm still training, and hence why I'm here. And for us, it's about enabling you to be able to build sales playbook and sales go-to-market plans and help you grow yourself and grow your revenue. That's ultimately the vision there. Off the back of that, I thought, okay, Mike, so, if you're being called to go and do in-person training or Zoom training, I'm not scalable. It's only me as a coach in that business. And as a founder, my time needs to be maximized. I've got staff, but they do other tasks. So I thought, why don't I set up a sales learning management system? E-learning is booming. You can look at Udemy, Coursera, right? All these platforms that enable you to be able to learn in your own pace, in the comfort of wherever you're at, but you get tangible results. So we are building, and when I say we, it's look at the Africa Sales Academy as the consultancy company, right? But the My Sales LMS, which is the top right in purple, is our e-learning function. Now we're 70% done. The platform is looking amazing. I'm using developers in Ghana. I'm keeping it within Africa, and those developers are doing a wonderful job. We're expecting a soft launch some point in October. When we do launch, one of the first people I'm going to be reaching out to is Gideon and team. Gideon already knows, we spoke, and I'm going to be able to give you guys some early access onto the LMS. What is My Sales LMS? My Sales LMS is effectively a portal that would allow you to connect with sales coaches, customer success coaches, marketing coaches, and leadership coaches. So all the things that I'm telling you right now that we're going to be going through, you'll be able to access that digitally. Some will be free, some will be obviously payable, but you have access to that from different coaches, not just me, but from different coaches across Africa, eventually across the globe. And then beyond that, you have access to mentors. So if you want to have a mentor in any continent, you can. And we're building that. Just as a quick heads up. Okay, so that's enough about me. Now let's actually start the actual course and the reason why you jumped on today. Any questions? Anything before I start? And please unmute if you want to speak. If not, then I'll move on. Okay. Again, two concepts that I want you to take note of. The forgetting curve. Ebbinghaus forgetting curve is probably what it's called if you want to Google it. It talks about the fact that when you learn something new, after a few days, you forget it, as you can see, right? Within 7 days, you've forgotten 85% of what you've learned. In fact, 90% of what you've learned. So what does that mean? Well, it means that you've got to practice what you're learning, put it into practice, right? And just be mindful of that. And hence why I always encourage you, and I know I can't see you, but you are taking notes or ready to take notes. Another concept, Kolb's effective learning cycle, right? It talks about application and experiential learning. Hence why there's going to be tasks in some of the things that we're going to be learning today, so that you can actually get a real life scenario and actually work through what we've learned. Because once you've actually written something down, it becomes tangible. So just bear these two concepts in mind. You can look into it further, Google it, and there's so much information on these. I'm going to skip this. If you can read, it's a bit blurry, but it's a founder, a serial founder called Jyoti Bansal. He founded App Dynamics. He's now a founder of Unusual Ventures, Harness. You can check him out on LinkedIn. Jyoti, first name Bansal, Bansal. I follow him because he's somebody who shares kind of credible posts, and I like it. And he made he shared an update that I screen grabbed, as you can see, and I'll read it because a lot of this will be applicable to yourselves. It says the number one thing startup founders overlook: sales and marketing. Many founders who come from an engineering background, as I did, i.e., him, don't understand that. When I got started, I expected to be focused on building products, but I quickly realized that my number one priority was actually sales. I had no choice but to get good at it. Customer acquisition became my main job. I booked as many meetings as possible with potential customers. I made hundreds of cold calls, sent countless LinkedIn messages, and was out front when closing deals big and small. You can have a large market and a great product, but none of that matters without top-notch sales execution. Hashtag startup advice, hashtag sales, hashtag marketing. Now, it may look fairly standard statement, nothing too profound, but there's it's got a lot of depth if you think about what he said, especially somebody who's founded App Dynamics and other organizations that have turning over millions of dollars yearly. And he's speaking from the heart. So what I've got on the left here is what I find speaking to businesses generally across Africa and other parts of Europe is there tends to be some sort of a barrier between sales and marketing, right? There's no cohesion. There's no, it doesn't look like they're malleable, those two business units. And as you can see, it should not be the case. Sales and marketing should work together. Marketing should glean insights from salespeople because they're the ones that are on the field, right? And leverage those insights and those learnings in their efforts, whether it be product marketing, whether it be field marketing or events marketing. Sales at the same time should be willingly offering feedback to marketing and telling marketing what they feel they require to be able to, get new business. So those two departments need to work hand in hand. Now, if you ask me, many business, when I was in Ghana in April speaking to some businesses, sometimes because of budget not permitting, you may only have one person doing both. It's fine, but I won't advise that, right? Because it's a different muscle to be a salesperson, to be a marketing person. I'm not saying one is harder or one is easier or one is better, the other is not better. It takes two different tasks, two different capabilities to do both. You can be a marketer and still do sales. You can be a sales and still do marketing. But I encourage you to have two separate individuals or functions if you've got teams, that is. If you're struggling to justify, the return on investment, we can talk about that. Hit me up. I'm on the WhatsApp group. Hit me up and we can talk about that. But I encourage you to look at marketing separately to sales, but working together. Okay. Now, let's now talk through the sales go-to-market plan, right? So this is what I explained around, your products. Going to market, where do you start? Now, again, let me underline that you all have plans, you all have business plans, and rightly so. What I'm going to be sharing with you is they're just tips, right? Take some or take all of it and apply it to your sales go-to-market function, right? And it's a methodology which I didn't invent. Mark Benioff, the Salesforce founder, invented it. And if you've looked into Salesforce, billion-dollar, organization, millions of dollars every year, been around since 2009. Was it 2009? Sorry, 2001 or something, 1999 or something like that. And they've been going strong for over 20 years. Okay, so let me run you through what the methodology is. Okay, so the story goes in 1999, as part of Salesforce, Mark Benioff, who's obviously the founder and the visionary, and Parker Harris, who's the CTO. I think they had a meeting, and as part of their strategic planning sessions, V2MOM was founded by Mark Benioff. And V2MOM stands for, as you can see down the bottom, vision, values, methods, obstacles, and measures. The first V is vision. The second V, hence why it's V2, because it sounds a lot more sexier that way rather than VVMOM. So the second V is values, and obviously all the way down to measures. But he scribbled this on the back of an American Express envelope because it was an informal meeting, and he devised this plan. What was he looking for? He was looking for a living and breathing document that everyone in the organization can work on, that would empower the employees, that would spark off a healthy dialogue, and that would basically give them more freedom to be creative. Because as you know, many traditional performance plan and other plans are quite archaic and outdated. It doesn't allow flexibility. It's quite rigid. But what you're going to be learning from V2MOM is it's very, very malleable. And, as you can see, it powers your way through the business. And look at it as your living and breathing document for everybody connected to the sales go-to-market team. Your sales team, customer success team, marketing team, your leadership, the entire team that's connected to revenue generation. So now let's actually go into the first V and what they all denote, and the importance of having these. Okay, so the first V is vision. Okay, vision in the sense of, as a sales go-to-market team, this is usually one that's, for me, is devised by the chief revenue officer or the CEO if it's a slightly smaller organization. The vision that, and I always get asked the question, Mike, what do you mean by vision? Because we have a company vision. This vision is for your revenue generation vision. You can keep it very specific or expansive, but keep it very short. So you think of it as you're giving, you're at your sales seminar, right? Or your sales kickoff, we call it, next year, if you want to have a year plan, or next 3 years. And really feel and pitch yourself talking to your staff, your sales go-to-market staff, or your entire organization. And think of what do you wish to have achieved at that time from a revenue perspective, right? That's keeping it very specific, revenue. So you could say, okay, same time next year, or if you want to start from, same time next year, August 2024, I would have achieved, or I want us to achieve $1 million in revenue, or $5 million in revenue, or $10 million in revenue, or 100,000 Ghana cedi in revenue, or $2,000 of revenue, whatever it is that your vision drives you to jot that down, right? But have a time bound to it, and keep it as a statement, but keep it fairly short. Okay, so that is the vision. Very lean. You can, so that's being specific, putting a revenue to it, or you can put it as expansive, right? Expansive being, I want my sales team to be the best revenue generation machine in my organization. It's not specific because you haven't applied a revenue number to it, but it's quite expansive, yet it's still very compelling. So that's how you start. All right. And just as a heads up, the task at the end of this is for you to build your V2MOM. So just, there'll be a task at the end of this piece. So that's your vision. So I'm going to ask you to write a vision and keep it specific or expansive. And I think Maxwell should have shared some materials with you. There's one that's got the V2MOM template in there, but you can write in your tablet or your notebook. It doesn't matter as long as you have that very clear. Okay. So then what's next after your vision? Your values, right? Apologies. Your values. So the question you got to ask yourself is, to achieve your vision, you got to have some foundational values, right? We all have belief systems, right? And sometimes, you know, the scientists will call it just dissonance. So sometimes when things aren't aligned to your values, there's that unstableness about it, right? The same thing comes here. You've got a vision, but to be able to achieve your vision, there's got to be some foundational values in it. I still remember going back 2010 when I started at a company, Rat Space. They were maniacal about all things values and culture. And I remember to this day what the values were: responsiveness, ownership, um, uh, respect, expertise, transparency. It just stuck in me because they continually drummed it within you in a nice way, because that's what they believed in as an organization, and everybody had to buy into that. So again, I've given you an example at the top: scalable, sustainable, attitude. Find your values that will drive you to achieve the revenue vision or the expansive vision that you've set for yourself, right? You can rank them, you don't have to rank them, but have some values. Okay, so now we've talked about vision, values. The third one is methods. So methods is, and I'm going to start speeding up because of time. Think of methods as, how are you going to achieve your vision? So you've gone and said, okay, I'm going to achieve. I want to generate $1 million worth of revenue by 2024. Okay, that's fantastic. But how are you going to do that? There's got to be a plan for you to do that, right? So what you're seeing here is an example, right? I'm not saying this is how it should be, but you got to think through the how. The methods is all about the how. So let me give you an example of one that I built earlier on, right? When you're thinking of the how, you can think of it as three pillars: people, process, and systems. So when it comes to people, you know, you may have heard this again, but people buy from people, and if I'm working for somebody or if I'm working somewhere and there's no genuine interest about getting to know who I am, I'm just working there maybe for money, but I'm not really driven. If another organization came and said, I'm going to pay you more than what you're earning, guess what? I'm going to move to that organization because I don't feel like I'm part of this vision. As a leader, and everybody that's on here, I believe, is a leader, you need to really have a go-to-market strategy where your people are cared for. So a few things around the people, and I'm not going to go into every single one of those, but some things that can spark off dialogue whilst you create your methods under your V2 Mom is empathy, EQ, right? Bring people in that have good character, that can the exemplary when it comes to showing how empathetic they are towards people, right? Because if they're doing that, they're going to do the same to your clients. And we'll get to a section where how buyers think and how they buy. Because once you master the science to that, and that's the science to selling, you're going to be very successful. Bring people in with character, bring people in with growth mindset, because they're going to have to learn things. You don't want people that have got fixed mindset. They know it all. They could be, IQ of whatever, 1,000, right? I don't care. But if they don't have empathy, they're never going to be successful in sales or help you grow your revenue. Okay. Really tap into the why of why you bring people in. Ask them about their story. I told you my story, or maybe a quarter of my story, in terms of, where I was born, how I came about this idea. That's a story. We love stories, right? That's how we all, we're able to get our attention grabbed when we're young kids. It's storytelling. And in sales, successful people tell stories. So you need to find out about their stories. Why are they in sales? Their why. What I'm saying here is, when you bring in people, don't just bring in people to say, yeah, you're a salesperson, you're in marketing, go and work. No, find time and connect, right? Anyway, that's that. Then once you've got that pillar of people done, process. have a process around sales methodology. If I'm a salesperson, how do I sell in your company, Mr. CEO or Mr. CEO? How do I sell in your company? Give me a playbook, right? Give me a documentation where I know this is how you sell, right? So that's something you will need to create. Build a culture of learning. I remember I worked at this company before I joined Rackspace. This was 2008, before the economic downturn, and there was a CEO who was very strict. It was, if you talk about characters, he was a D, right? So he was quite dominant character, and he used to do this thing which I didn't value it at the time, but I valued it afterwards. He bought us, everybody in the company, the book Good to Great by Jim Collins. And he said, I said, I'm in sales. He's like, yeah, read it. I wasn't a reader back then. I mean, I was reading, but I wasn't an avid reader. Everyone read it. And then during team meetings, he'll just call you out and say, or he'll give you obviously a day or two notice, say, you're going to be presenting on this chapter. So go and get ready or be ready. And on that day, you come and you just share your insights about that particular chapter or a few chapters. For me, I felt it was a waste of time at the time, but a couple of years later when I left, I was like, wow, that was invaluable. And to this day, I thank him for that. Okay, so build a culture of learning, and I'm not saying do exactly that, but encourage everyone to learn. Okay, and if you bring people in the Africa growth mindset, that's just going to be natural to them, right? Set realistic targets, have a system where everybody, an open door policy, feedback, right? The only way you can improve is to get feedback. Okay, that's why when you buy things from Amazon and certain places, you get that feedback come through your email or your text. On a scale of 1 to 5, how can we improve this service? It's feedback. You got to do the same thing for your organization, right? And then alignment of the ecosystem. Make sure that everyone knows what part they bring. If I'm in marketing, I need sales because of this reason, right? Bring it all together. And then finally, systems. Okay, so when I say systems, it's all about saving time. It's efficiencies here. I know many people are saying, or you're probably thinking, yeah, it's another, money that I've got to spend on. Yeah, I know that. But what if it can give you time back, right? What if it can help you identify your ideal customer profile? What if it can give all the things which manual tasks can't give us? It gives you time back, and that time can go into other productive tasks. So what I'm saying here is mainly systems, right? So all these systems, all these vendors that you're seeing, HighSpot, Outreach, they're all systems that are using sales, right? MailChimp, it's not here, but MailChimp, HubSpot, the likes, they're all systems. I'm not saying invest in every one of these systems, but find a system that will create efficiencies for you and your team. Okay, so far we've covered vision, values, methods, and the methods you've got three. I'm suggesting you have three different pillars. You can have your own way of doing your how, but it's just a guide. Let's move on to the final two, obstacles. So this is where you keep it real, guys. Ladies and gents, this is where you keep it real, because there's one thing having a vision, but if there's no obstacle in the way, then the vision is not scary enough or it's not big enough. Okay, and your vision has to be greater than, it has to scare you. Obviously, when it comes to revenue, I'm not saying set ridiculous revenue targets if you're setting a specific revenue target, but make it more challenging, something that makes you want to wake up thinking, wow, how am I going to attain this? Because once you start asking yourself how, the mind has a unique way of finding solutions. Because when you say how, the mind opens up. It's like an umbrella. It's like a parachute. It only works when it's opened. So when you start asking yourself how, the parachute opens up. And believe me, you'll find, if you start looking at the right places and you're conscious of what you're looking for, you'll find it. So the obstacles is you just saying, list down what obstacles do you think are in your way to achieve your vision? What are some of the challenges that you think you're going to overcome? And again, here is you can have a list of 20 things, a list of 5 things, 1,000 things, 1 thing. But the goal here is when you let it out, it becomes tangible. Then you start finding ways of overcoming the obstacle. Not just you, as a team, you find ways of overcoming the obstacle. Okay, and again, remember, we're keeping this sales go-to market. So everything that helps you with revenue generation, what are the obstacles in the way? Okay, let's not veer away from, we're working within, I don't say a rigid refinement, but we're working within the sales go-to-market team. Okay, so let's look at the final acronym, which is the final M. Measures, right? And I talked about the fact that what you can't measure, you cannot track. You just don't know, how am I getting on, right? I said I was going to achieve $1 million in a year's time. I'm 6 months in. How am I doing, right? So if you're not measuring that, and you have to be very meticulous when it comes to measuring, the successful companies, you guys may know it, you have to be meticulous. It's painful. Salespeople don't like tracking ourselves, but you have to track it. If you're an exec and you've got a sales team, encourage them to record everything that they do, because that's the only way that you can track it at that level. So I've given you some examples here. And again, it's not an exhaustive list of how to measure. It's just giving you ideas. Year-on-year revenue growth, client retention, employee retention, year-on-year profit growth, client satisfaction. If you know that you're increasingly adding revenue month on month, you can actually say, oh, okay, so I've got two sales executives. They're bringing in X amount of revenue month on month. It seems to be consistent. If I bring on 4 other sales execs, I can actually get to my revenue, and it's a return on investment. You get my concept? But because you're measuring it, you just know the science to it. But anyway, that's that. Let me show you what an example of a V2 mom that has been fully populated looks like. So spend some time. You may want to screen grab this. In fact, I probably encourage you to screen grab it, just so that when you get to build in your own V2 mom as a task, which will be in the next probably 5 minutes, you have some ideas, okay? And give me a thumbs up. In fact, I say give me a thumbs up, but I still can't see the thumbs up. So yeah, just I'll give it a minute. I'll leave this on for a minute for you guys to absorb it. So for this fictitious scenario or example, the vision that was set by the CRO, the Chief Revenue Officer, was to build an elite sales machine that delivers growth for employees, customers, and partners. What you're noticing here is it was an expansive vision. It wasn't a specific vision. There's no specific revenue attributed to it. Okay, the values that he or she said they're going to adhere to get to the vision were scalable, sustainable, and attitude. And as you can see underneath it, it says build once, use many times, right? Go to market playbook, create the right habits. This was their values. Everybody has to be, everyone that you bring in that's part of the team has to buy into that. Methods. These were the methods. Driving sales GTM success by elevating performance, leading to increasing revenue, adopting a growth mindset, and creating a culture of learning, and then empowering partners to act as an extension to their sales team. Where you can see there's partners. So they're thinking, how can we get to this revenue? Oh, let me think about my partner plan, because my partners can be an extension to my team. Obstacles. This CRO was like, let me keep it real. The systems that we have are not conducive to success. We need to look at our systems. I have an inexperienced sales team. I need to either train them or hire an experienced sales team. I have a course development overhead when it comes to the sales go-to-market playbook. And the partner engagement is very minimal. We need to improve on that. These were the obstacles that were in her way to get to that vision. And then how is he or she going to measure it? Well, these are some of the ways that they're going to measure it. Right? Again, I'm not going to read it, but hopefully you've taken a screen grab of this. Okay, I'm going to move on to one final slide, and then we're going to move on to the task where you'll build your V2 mom in this format. And I think you're going to have about 10 minutes, about 8 to 10 minutes to do it, just so that we can have some time to crack on. So the final slide. If you guys use Miro, you probably see this is a board from Miro. You won't see some of the Excel stuff that I've the spreadsheet that I've pasted, but I want to run you through the concept of this, right? Just get the concept. So imagine the V2MOM template that you've just seen, okay, from the CRO. So as you can see, it says V2MOM for CRO. I'm not sure what part of the screen you're seeing, but it's the bit on the left to me. So maybe it's on the right for you. But it says V2MOM for CRO. And then what the CRO has done is he or she has built a V2MOM as a sales go-to-market plan. And then as you can see, the sales playbook feeds off of that. And then the people, process, and systems in the methods, the M, the first M in V2MOM, it's been highlighted. Okay. And as you can see, it's got V2MOM for marketing, V2MOM for customer success, and then V2MOM for sales managers. I can see a typo there. Apologies. What does this mean? Let me explain to you what that means. This Chief Revenue Officer, CRO for short, builds a V2MOM high level. Then it cascades down. If you're in marketing, the head of marketing or the marketing person also builds their V2MOM. The customer success person also builds, but everything is feeding off the original V2MOM by the CRO. So the marketing person knows that my objective in this sales go-to-market team is to bring in X amount of leads or to do X amount of events. That is my vision. So again, the marketing person does their own V2MOM. Everyone does their V2MOM. Even the salespeople do their V2MOM. But guess what that does? It means that as a salesperson, you know that if I do my parts, right, it's like the body, right? Eyes, mouth, ears, legs, limbs, everything, all coming together is a fully functioning individual. It's the same thing for a V2MOM. Everyone plays a part. Now, it gets interesting where if you're not feeling motivated one particular morning or one particular afternoon or a particular month, you still know that you're part of a vision, because if you're not functioning, we can't get to our vision. So what that motivates you to want to get up and give it your best, right? So that is what you've got to encourage. And again, we can pick this up separately, but think of it as everyone builds a V2MOM, but it feeds into a higher V2MOM by the CRO or by the CEO. And then on the right are some templates that I shared, right? So it gets to the point where you as the leader can start asking yourself questions such as, what investments do you need? Where do I need to, invest my training? Is it staff? Is it where do we need to look at the deal management, so on and so? Because the V2MOM, when you start measuring it, you get to know where the gaps are. Because if you're not closing enough deals, you think, is it because my sales team are not good at closing deals? Are they not good at finding opportunities? Are they struggling? You get to know the nitty gritty of where the gaps are. And then, of course, as you can see, it says channels for opportunities. When you're thinking about where are you going to get your business from, again, you can think of different channels. But this is just to give you a feel of V2MOM is not one document. It's a document that's a living and breathing document that you update many times, and everyone has their own V2MOM. But I'm going to pause there, and I want to give an opportunity for you to ask questions. It says task 20 minutes, but please, let's take 10 minutes because it's 2 o'clock, or it's 2 o'clock my test, 1 o'clock at the minute. Let's finish this by 10 past 1, and let's spend 5 minutes. Let's get 2 or 3 people to just share their V2MOM, or maybe 2 people to share their V2MOM. You come off mute and just run through your V2MOM, right? Very quickly. But before we do that, any questions? I'm having a look at the chat. Please come off mute if you have any questions, any feedback, anything you want to add. Remember, we just said we want to make it interactive, right? So I don't want it to be a presentation. I'm not talking at you. This is meant to be a two-way thing. So I'm encouraging you to partake in this workshop. So please, Is it? Let me ask the question a different way. What has stood out for you so far? I can't see, but I can see Def can talk, raise hand. Please come off mute and then you can speak.
All right. Thank you very much. Please, can you hear me?
I can hear you very audibly clear.
All right. All right. So I should have asked this question at the early stages of the conversation, but then I just wanted to have a clearer view on that. You said that we spoke about getting a deal closed or not as a business. I want to know, how do you know a deal is going to work? If that deal at the end of the day is going to close for you or it's not going to close for you, how do you know? What are some of the characteristics that will make you identify such deal?
That's a great question. That's a great. What's your name, please?
Ike. I'm the founder of DefCon Talk.
Ike. Good to meet you, Ike. It's a great question, and you're probably maybe 2 steps ahead of us where we are right now. So remember, we're going on a journey. We're starting with building your plan, and then we're going to move on to, how do we find deals, and then how do we judge if it's a good deal or not. But that's in subsequent lessons that we're going to cover. It won't do it justice if I was to cover it right now. But all I can say is that a lot of the hard work, right, starts with what we call discovery. Discovery is basically you having that initial conversation with your potential buyer, understanding their challenges, their pain points, why they want to buy, why now, who holds the budget, what happens if they do nothing, what's in it for them, why are they even talking to you? Those questions, if you can get some credible answers to those, and not just one person, it's across everybody that's being impacted by that pain. Because remember, when a buyer is talking to you, they're speaking to you because they have a pain that they want to address. And we call that, and again, I don't want to go too far forward before we get there. There's 2 ways they buy. They buy away from pain, or they buy towards innovation. So if you're speaking to a buyer who says, I'm currently spending all my night trying to keep my system updated or whatever, it depends on obviously whatever the challenge is. From the tone of that, you know that they're buying away from pain, right? And the way you have to conduct the discovery call is getting to the bottom of what is that pain causing them in terms of time and money. What you're doing there is you're building a business case. It's like being in the court. You're building a case where you're going to present back to that potential buyer to say, look, if you don't do anything, this is the opportunity cost. It's $20,000. Now, let me help you and let's work together and let's build a business case that you can take to the budget holder if they're not the budget holder. And generally, they're never the budget holders. Budget holders don't talk to us. They're the ones who come later on in the process, right? So what I'm saying here is you're working with a champion, and we'll come on to a champion when we get there. So you'll find the champion, you know that there's something in it for the champion. They want to get good credibility in the business, or they want to save time. So then when you're asking them to get on meetings, they're on time. When you're asking them to get back to you, they're doing, those are all hallmarks of, oh, okay, great. I want to spend my time with this person because I feel that I can help them. That's if they're buying away from pain. If they're buying towards innovation, it could be a thing of, it's like, oh, is that they call it FOMO, fear of missing out. All my colleagues in my industry have got a CRM in place. We don't have a CRM, but I don't want to be left behind, right? That person doesn't have a pain, but they like to buy. They want to keep abreast. They're early adopters of technology. Again, that conversation there is different, right? You got to, the ones that buy towards innovation, you've got to qualify, or your discovery has to be very firm, because it can get to the point where there's no value in them doing that because there's no pain. They're going to struggle to justify that to the budget holder to say, we just want to buy something fancy, right? So what I'm saying here is we'll get to this lesson, but all these are telltale signs of you inwardly knowing and having that discernment of, I'm working on 5 opportunities. two of those I feel have got all the hallmarks of a deal closing. I want to spend my time there. It comes with time, but eventually you build that muscle of okay, because what you don't want to do is to be chasing deals that are never going to close. I think I said it from the start, right? If you're working on five opportunities, I guarantee you, not all five are going to close. No one has 100% close rate ratio. Nobody. Everyone. That's why it's a close ratio. There's many opportunities. You're going to close some. The challenge is which is going to be within that sum, and that's where if you had a magic wand, I always said in sales, if I had a magic wand, I'd love to be able to say, okay, I'm talking to five opportunities from the start. Which one's really going to close? Let me focus on those and let me just drop the rest. But we just don't have that, right? So, sorry, I've gone a kind of a long-winded way of answering your question, but we'll get to that module. But hopefully, that lesson, but hopefully, this has given you some food for thought. I can't hear you, so I'm hoping that that's either a thumbs up or that's a yes. Okay, Ike, you there? Okay, I can see thumbs up. Okay. Um. Again. Okay. So if there are no questions, any other questions? Oh, there's a thumbs up. Please unmute yourself and ask away. Okay. In the interest of time, can we spend the next what time is it now? In fact, the next 8 minutes. So we're back at 1:15. And please work through your V2 mom, right? Just scribble something down. It's not going to be your final V2 mom, but it's going to be a start. So run through your vision, your values, your methods, your obstacles, and your measures. And let's resume at 1:15, please. Can you give me a thumbs up if the the task is clear? If not, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thumbs up, please. Okay, thank you, everybody. I think I've got a few thumbs up. So yeah, 1:15. Please start now. And I'll receive. I'll be back at 1:15. I'm here, but I'll start talking at 1:15. And then between 1:15 to 1:20, we're gonna ask one or two people just to run through what they've drafted. And then we'll continue. Thank you. Hey team, I'm back. So it's quarter past now. How did you find the exercise? And please, somebody come off mute and run through what it was like drafting your first ever V2 mom.
Hello.
Hi, hello sir.
Hi. Good afternoon. This is Hayford speaking, please.
Hello Hayford.
So this is my first time encountering this model. So it took a lot of review of what I've been doing so far to really put them according to the template that I was provided. So in terms of on a scale of 1 to 5, as 5 being the difficult, I'll say 3.5 for me.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Again, obviously, it's a new muscle that you're building, right? So, at some point, I think once you start populating it and adding more detail to it, and seeing the value that potentially could bring you, hopefully the 3.5 will go up to 4. But yeah, thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Sure, please. Thank you.
Okay, I'll take one more. Maybe we can run through your V2 mom itself, please.
All right. This is Ike from Dev Control.
Hello, Ike.
So yes, please can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you audibly.
So basically, we started. Actually, it's also a new area for us, but I think I feel very much appreciative to be involved or be part of this particular section. So we have a vision. Per what we are doing, we are creating um, a smartphone app that allows a person with hearing disability to communicate with a hearing person on the go. And so how do we provide our target market, which we are looking at the businesses like the hospitals and the pharmacy shops? How
Yeah.
do we make the app or the product available? So our vision is to provide 100 smart stands. The 100 smart stand over here, the smart stand itself is a tablet that comes with a stand with with our app pre-installed on it. So when
Yeah.
you go to the pharmacy shop, it will be available there so that when a deaf person should visit the pharmacy shop, they are able to communicate with the vendor over there. So our vision is to provide 100 smart stands to our target markets by end of next year. That is our vision. Yeah. Then with the
Wonderful.
values, with the values, of course, one of the main things we're looking at is the um, the sustainability plan. And
Yeah.
so we are going to have a sales go-to market playbook, which will serve as a guideline. Well, if we have new workers or if we have new customers, we can introduce to them. If it is a worker, the worker can easily have access and know what you've been performing over the years. And if it is a vendor, we have the records of how we've been engaging with previous people, so it becomes easy for them to also hop on. Then also, in terms of attitude, we'll create the right attitude for both our workers to be able to engage peacefully with the customers. And then scalability, of course. Once the product is provided to the target, which is the hospital or the pharmacy shop,
Yeah.
there's no need to bring another product. The same product can be used over and over and over again as much as possible. Then the um, I think that's where we got to. We couldn't. We were in the process. I think the time is limited. So if you have ample time, we can work out with all the components and then submit. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I love what you're doing at DEFCON Talk. I mean, just from the name alone, I think I made an assumption in terms of what the business does. But thank you for the breakdown of the value proposition. I love the vision, and I love your why as well. But yeah, thank you. And you're right. This will take a bit of time. You know, you've done your vision. You know, values, your methods, obstacles, measures. it'll take a bit of time to run through, but please don't give up on this. Everyone, just try and get to the end of this V2 MOM, because yeah, you'll see the benefits, and you'll be able to kind of bear fruits of this at a later stage. So thank you everybody for partaking in the exercise. I think Max.
Hello, Michael. May I share my vision and values?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So this is my Frederick from Syntropy Engineering Solutions.
Okay.
And at Syntropy, our vision is to establish what we call the Ghanaian German Welding Center to educate on advanced welding processes and ensure that the industry is adhering to international welding best practices, certifications, and safety standards. Okay, so
right,
we came up as a business with this vision because in Ghana there is no proper welding institution here. Okay, and then so there's been some instances recently. I think somewhere last year there was some explosion at Apache, some community at Bogoso, which led to displacing the whole community, and then so many people losing their lives. It's because these tanker vessels are welded, okay, and during loading of the being it oil or explosives or gas into the vessel, at the joints at the joints where these vessels were welded, okay, at the joints, there is when you load the content, there is contraction. You see, gases move haphazardly. Okay, so some slight expansion. Okay, now after offloading, okay, then you see some contraction. Okay, so in the advanced countries, so America have the American Welding Society, the Germans do have. So during loading and offloading, now they use a device called ultrasonic testing machine to check whether there are any cracks or something, and then quickly work on it. But we do not have such here in Ghana. Right. And so the continual expansion and contraction eventually will lead to crack formation. Now, in engineering, this crack will propagate. There will be crack propagation, and eventually it will fail. Okay, and these, the contents are highly flammable. So when it leaks, and then there's any naked fire, it just catches fire, and then burns the whole place. Okay, so as a business, we have this vision. Okay, we're trying to establish the Ghanaian German Welding Center, and then the main focus is to partner with educational and research institutions. Okay, to provide this education. Okay, to the general public, and then also ensure that the welding industry in Ghana is officialized and that it is, it needs to adhere to international standards. Okay, just so to solve this challenge. So we have 3 core values as a business.
Yeah.
The first one is standard. As a business, whatever we are doing, okay, with regard to our welding services and products and all that, needs to conform to the international standards. Okay. Now the second one also has to do with precision. Okay. So like I said, okay, another classic example is you see, the chassis of vehicles are not meant to be welded, but that is exactly what is done here in Ghana. Okay, the chassis in advanced worlds are forged. Okay, there is a technique called forging. Okay, it's also a joining process. It's more or less the advanced form of welding. Okay, but as one, what they do is they weld the chassis, and when these vehicles are on the road, there are stresses and all that upon the chassis, so it's brakes and always road accidents, claiming a lot of lives. Okay, right. So we also need to be precise with what we are doing. And then the third core value is efficiency. Yeah. Okay. Or we had these 3 core values from our vision and mission as a business. Okay. As a business, we are still iterating. Okay. So everything might not be perfect right now, but we are still putting systems in place, trying to ensure the right thing is done. Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. yeah, keep up with building that business. Again, quite a purposeful business right there. Anybody else that wants to share before I move on? And please come off mute.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question. So basically, I want to know, because as a business, we have values, general values, or a vision, which we could consider as a value proposition. I want to know how that the vision of the entire business differs from the vision of the what do you call it, the sales revenue. How does it differ? And if it doesn't differ, what should be the similarity? Yeah, please can you clarify on that?
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful question. It's one that I've been asked that before, and my response to that is, as a CEO founder, you know, you set up the business and you had a vision. Growth, I'm sure, is always usually part of that vision, or to be able to kind of, you know, scale is part of your vision. So how you connect the sales go-to-market vision to that vision is, if you are more kind of veering towards the specific vision for your sales go-to-markets, then, and your business, you know, doesn't have a revenue vision, as you said, as you founded it, then it's different, right? You've got to just say, okay, I get the vision was growth or scaling or whatever it is that the vision was for the company, but you have to create one for your sales go-to-market strategy, right? So to answer your question, it is linked, but sometimes, you know, vision. I mean, if you think about one of the vision that I worked at a company, and the vision was to create an environment where everyone is liked. Okay, that's great. It's a great vision, but how do you then translate that to a sales go-to-market vision? The sales go-to-market vision was very different. We want to generate $5 million of revenue by a year ending X year. So with those two, there was some distinction, right? So I guess my answer to your question is, it really depends on your original vision. Don't feel any way having this sales go-to-market vision different to the main vision. What I would do if I was you is be very specific with the sales go-to-market vision and make it revenue focused, because it's sales, it's revenue, it's growth. And therefore, I will say something along the lines of, I'm not going to keep it expansive, because your original vision for the company is quite expansive, right? It says nothing about revenue. And therefore, my sales go-to-market vision is very revenue specific. And therefore, everybody that's part of your sales go-to-market team knows that every contribution that they're offering is to get to that revenue goal of X amount by this time. So that's what I will do. It's somewhat linked, but to be honest, it could be its own entity. And then obviously everything feeds off of that. Hopefully that helps.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Thank you very much. It really helps.
Okay, wonderful. Any more? If not, then we are gonna go on to our second lesson. And thank you everybody for taking the task. I know many of you have done it, but probably not shared it. At some point before we finish the 4 sessions, I'd love to be able to see your curated V2MOM as per the template, which I'm sure Maxwell has shared with everybody. Just populate it and keep it lean. And maybe you can post it on the group, or share it with me directly, or share it with Maxwell or Gideon and team. But thank you for that. Okay, how long have we got? So we've got 30 minutes. Okay, so we're gonna cover the metrics. Now, the one thing I'm gonna say to you with the metrics is, we're gonna be doing some maths here. Okay, so bear with me on this one. And there's a quiz at the end of it, and there's a task also at the end of it. But I encourage you to keep your maths juices flowing, because we're gonna need some thinking heads here. Okay, the objective is to have a clear understanding of the metrics that's going to drive your success, right? Every sales revenue business has metrics, and I'll explain to you what these metrics are. Okay, so we're going to start with some formulas. Again, if you feel it's unclear, please come off mute and give me a shout, because I can't see if you've got a thumbs up or, yeah, because I'm looking at my screen, which just shows me the slide that you're seeing. Now, there's some definitions, right? So let's define a few terminologies. A prospect, as you can see, is where it says definition. A prospect is somebody who, or it's a company who are not a customer, but they're on your target list, right? So it's a potential customer. We call them prospects. Opportunity is where you feel there's a deal there to be closed. So there's an opportunity there. So opportunity tends to be a company who you're speaking to that you feel that you have a chance of closing a deal with. It's an opportunity. And usually you've got many opportunities, but of course the challenge that we talked about earlier is knowing which ones to pick and which ones not to work on, right? A customer is somebody who has signed a deal with you and is working with you. They're a customer. Ratios. There are two ratios that we are going to be talking about today. The first ratio is your opportunity ratio, and then the second ratio is your call ratio. I don't want to lose you yet, but I'll keep it very simple. Your opportunity ratio is how many opportunities do you close within your bucket or within your funnel. So let's say, for example, for ease of maths, you've got 100 opportunities that you're working on, that you're talking to in a year. But out of that, at the end of the year, you only managed to close 20 of those opportunities out of the 100. Your opportunity ratio, right, or your opportunity close ratio is what we call it, opportunity to close ratio, is 20%, because you close 1 out of every 5, 20 out of 100. So remember, ratios are important in this task that we're about to undertake. So that's
a quick one.
Yes.
Can we consider the opportunity ratio as the conversion rate as well?
Correct.
The opportunity rate, could it be considered as your conversion rate? Because conversion rate has to do with the number or the percentage of people that have actually purchased the product or have closed the deal.
We can indeed. It's just a different terminology. So yeah, we can call it conversion rate. So opportunity conversion rate, absolutely. So let's call it that from now, opportunity conversion rate. Everyone happy with that? And then we'll do the same thing with calls as well. Call conversion rate. So the call conversion rate, as you know, if in sales, you make a phone call or you send an email. Let's focus on calls for now, because I believe in kind of more physical touch than digital stuff, although you need a combination of a nice balance of all different channels. But for this task, just so you understand the concept of metrics, we're working on calls only, right? You start the engagement with calling somebody, right? And when you call somebody, you then decide, actually, there's an opportunity there or there's no opportunity, right? And then when there's an opportunity there, you then say, okay, I've got 100 opportunities, I closed 20. So therefore, your opportunity conversion ratio, which we've already talked about, is X percentage. But the step before that is your call conversion ratio. So the same way, let's say you did 100 calls a day, right? Or you have an individual who is your sales representative who's doing 100 calls a day, okay? Out of the 100 calls, there is no way that they're going to get 100 opportunities. It's impossible. No one ever does that, no matter how good you are. Generally speaking and broadly speaking, the call to opportunity ratio, the call to opportunity conversion ratio usually tends to be around 10%, right? Depends on, the list you're calling, about 10%. So you get 10 opportunities out of every 100 calls. So I hope you're with me so far. So as Ike mentioned, we're using call conversion ratio, and we're using opportunity conversion ratio. So remember those ratios, because it was going to come in handy at the top when I run through those formulas. And then when we say something is closed, you can close it as a won or a lost, right? It's not applicable in what we're going to talk about, but it's worth knowing about. It's a terminology. ICP is your ideal customer persona. Now, this was one of the questions which I asked in the Google form, and many says no, we don't have one. We're going to talk about an ICP. In very simplistic terms, an ICP is you knowing that, let's say, for example, Ike's, generally, who does Ike sell to, right? Deaf can talk. Who would you normally sell to? You sell to businesses, and if you sell to businesses, who within those businesses do you speak to? Are they in operations? Are they in finance? Are they the CEOs? You get my concept. But the ICP are usually individuals or personas that you target. Okay, so those are definitions. Now let's look at the formula. And if you can get this formula, then we're on track. And I expect you to get it, because I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible. So let's say, for example, Opoku Ajiman's company decided that their revenue for the next 12 months, right, is going to be $100. Actually, let's think big. Let's say $1 million, or even beyond, but I just want to keep it simple math. Let's say $1 million. Okay, so where it says revenue target, right, put $1 million there. So I'll encourage you to, in fact, write this down, because the task we're going to do in the next 10 minutes or so is you actually building your own metric like this. Okay, so yes, put down revenue target $1 million, or whatever your revenue target is in your business. If you don't have one, just put a simple number to make the maths easy. How are you going to achieve your revenue targets? Well, you need to know your average contract value. We call it ACV. If you've been in sales, or you're going to be in sales, which you are going to be if you're growing your business, you're probably going to be hearing ACV a lot. Your average contract value, you may know it or you may not know it. If you don't know it, you can find that out. Not a problem. But let me explain to you what that is. It's the average of how much your products cost, your services cost. Okay. And usually, if you have an operations person, they'll be able to give you this data point. If you don't have one, let's take, for example, over the last year, look at the last 12 months. Look at how many transactions or how many deals you've closed, right? You may say, oh yeah, I closed a deal that was $10. So let's say you closed 10 deals in the last 12 months. And out of your 10 deals, the total amount, right? The total amount that you closed was $100,000, right? That's the revenue that you did in the last 12 months. But by the way, you said you're going to do $1 million in the next 12 months, but your last 12 months, you did $100,000. Out of the $100,000, you did 10 transactions, or 10 deals, or 10 opportunities that were closed won. Simple maths. To get your average contract value, is you divide your revenue by the number of deals that you closed. So it's $10,000. And I hope you're following so far. And give me a thumbs up if you are following. And if you have a question, happy to pause and answer that question for you. Is it clear so far? I've got one hand up. Please, yeah, go away. I think Ike,
yeah. Yeah, can you take that again, please?
Sure. So, if you're looking at the formula at the top where it says revenue target, the revenue targets, okay, is your next 12 months revenue goal, or your next 3 years, whatever you decide to set as your vision. Remember, we did the vision. If you have a specific vision, that is the revenue target. For this scenario, I've said the revenue target for Defcon Talk, it's $1 million of revenue. So we'll put that number there. It's a shame if I was whiteboarding, I would have whiteboarded this for you. So put equals your average contract value. So I think that's where you said to come again. Okay, so your average contract value, what we're trying to work out is when you're closing these deals, what tends to be the average amount? And I know this varies, right? You may close a deal that's worth $10. Another deal may be $200,000 or $20, right? But you want to find an average because we need to go and find those averages out there when we're hunting for these deals. So the way to work out the average of what your deals are closed at is you need to look at your last year's revenue, right? And then divide it by how many deals you closed to get to that revenue. So you may say, we closed $100,000 worth of deals in the last 12 months. But out of that, we had about 5 deals in terms of 5 transactions, 5 contracts signed, right? Pen to paper signed. So then, although out of those 5 contracts, some of them may be 50K, some may be 10K, some may be 15K, but they all amounted to $100,000. But for this maths, what you're doing is you're dividing $100,000, divide that by 5 transactions. That will give you $20,000 as your ACV, which is your average contract value. Does that help? Does that give you a bit more clarity?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the lady, I didn't take your name, apologies. Is that helpful? Can I?
Yeah, that's okay. Thanks.
Wonderful. Okay. So now we've got, so follow this track because it gets a little bit complicated about what, we'll pull it back. So far we've said, okay, Defcon Talk, $100 million was the target, is the target for the next 12 months. We've worked out that your last year's average contract value, ACV, is, for ease of maths, let's say $20,000. Okay, so fine. So the question I'm going to put to you guys is, how many $20,000 deals do you need to close to get to $1 million? To
get what?
So we've worked out that Ike's revenue target, and this is just a fictitious scenario, is $1 million, right? We've worked out that your ACV is $20,000. So the question I'm asking is, how many? This is a number. How many $20,000 deals do you need to close to get to $1 million? And I think someone's shared the answer in the group, which I think is correct. Would you agree? Would you all agree it's 50? Okay. I've got yes. Cool.
Yeah, 50.
Please, if you're disagreeing or you think you're not sure how we got to the 50, please comment and we'll run through that again. But it's correct. It's for the first line. Ike, we've worked with Ike and we're saying, Ike, to get to $1 million, if you increase your ACV, because remember your ACV increased, but we're working based on last year's, because that's the only data point that we have. So it's $20,000. Okay. So Ike is now thinking, okay, I need to find 50 deals that are going to close, i.e. 50 signed contracts, right? Contracts that are going to close over the next 12 months. So now you start thinking, oh, wow, I've only got 2 salespeople, or maybe it's just me. Can I really close 50 deals? Or is my revenue target too ambitious? You start asking questions. It's a good place to be because this is brutal facts, right? Otherwise, you're just going to go into the year next 12 months and say, yeah, I'm going to close $1 million. And then halfway through, you've only closed 1 deal. And you're like, oh, wow, I'm nowhere near. And you're demotivated. What you're doing here is the science. Keep it realistic and keep it ambitious. Okay, so back to our formula. So now, So now, as you can see where it says up closed, so we're saying 50. So now the question now is, okay, how many, right, opportunities do we need to close 50 deals or to close? And remember, the 50 is across the year, by the way. It's not, it's across 12 months. So don't be scared, right? So if you want to even keep it simplistic, take your calculator out and put 50 divided by 12. It means you have to close 4 deals a month. Divide that by 4, you have to close 1 deal a week. Okay, it gets a lot more realistic when you start breaking it down into weekly. Okay, so if you've got 4 salespeople in your team, right, what you're asking the 4 salespeople to do is to close 4 deals a month. Everyone brings in 1 deal. It starts to become more achievable, but don't look at it in the year because it could be quite scary. Anyway, back to conscious of time. So I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes on this. Back to, so now we're saying 50 opportunities is what Ike needs to find in the next 12 months. Okay, so Ike, we identified, again, this is a fictitious scenario. We identified that your op conversion ratio, right, is, let's say 50%. It's quite high, but let's say 50%. Okay, so what we're saying is, like, every 2 opportunities that you're speaking to, you close 1 of them, right? So the question I'm going to pose to you guys again is another maths question for the second line, to complete the second line, is if you need to close 50 opportunities and we know that your opportunity conversion ratio is 50%, how many opportunities do you need to have in your funnel to close 50 opportunities? Happy to repeat that if anybody's unclear about the question.
Yeah, you can repeat that again.
Okay, so we identified that for Ike to get to $1 million with his current average contract value of $20,000, he needs to close and he needs to win and sign 50 contracts in 1 year. That's the first line. I think we all agreed on that. Now we're taking it, a bit deeper. So we're saying Ike needs to find how many opportunities does Ike need to have in his funnel to be able to close 50. Remember his opportunity conversion ratio, and I'll explain to you what that means. The opportunity conversion ratio is, you're not going to be able to close every opportunity that's in your funnel, the funnel that you can see there. You're not going to. You close some and you lose some. But what we're saying is Ike is so good that he only loses 1 out of every 2. So his opportunity conversion ratio is the same as close ratio. Conversion ratio is 50%. So if Ike now needs to close 50 opportunities over the next year, obviously he needs to have more than 50 in his pipeline because he closes 1 out of every 2. So the question is, how many does he need to have in his funnel, in his, we call it pipeline? How many does he need to have in his pipeline to be able to close 50? And someone's put the answer in there. It's correct, 100. But again, I want to put it out there. If it's unclear, let me know and let me run through that again. It does get a little bit. This is probably, we'll probably leave it here because we can go a step deeper in terms of how many calls you need to make. But I shared, I think I shared something with Maxwell that you can actually punch in everything and it works it out for you. But I wanted you guys to understand the science behind it, because otherwise, if you just receive a spreadsheet and it's like, oh yeah, let me just put my numbers in there, you don't understand how it works behind the scenes. But 100 is spot on. So thank you, Thelma. Thank you, Richard, and everybody else that worked it out. So now Ike is saying, okay, great. Over the next 12 months, I need to look, when I'm looking for opportunities, whether it's my own opportunity, my friends, my referral, whether it's through a partner, whether it's through my different sources that I find opportunities from, I need to find 100 of those opportunities, right, at that deal, at that ACV of 20,000. This is the clarity that you need. So when someone is looking for opportunities in the wrong sources, guess what Ike is going to do? That is not where we don't find opportunities in that channel, Mr. Salesperson or Mr. Sales Lady or Mr. Salesman, because that's how it works within DEFCON Talk. I know how we can win deals. I know where we find deals. I know my ACV. So don't look there. Look here. Oh, salesperson or salesperson, like, oh, thank you. That's the guidance that I needed. So now let me go and maximize my effort in this channel, because that's the only way that I can be successful in DEFCON Talk. It may not be the same for Opoku company, right? You got to build your own. So the clarity that Ike is now got going into the year is we're going to find 120,000 ACV opportunities, and we're going to close half of those. And if we do that, we're going to get to a $1 million target. I mean, you can't get any more clear than that. Then the next level down, which we're not going to have time to review, is usually now working out how many calls does your team need to make, or do you need to make to get those 100 opportunities, right? But what I have done is I've managed to, and this is one that I used before. You just punch in your numbers, right? Where it says target, you get the spreadsheet from Maxwell. You punch in your number, your target. You punch in your ACV. You need to know your ACV. If you don't know, you got to work it out. And then it'll tell you how many you need to close. And then it just works out for you. So it works out how many calls you need to make a week, how many calls you need to make a month. If it's just you doing it, you know how many calls you're going to do. If it's just a team, you have a team that are doing it, yeah, just break it down for them. But as a salesperson, if you tell them that I want you to make X amount of calls, I want you to target these people, if you can I know what my job is and I'm going to smash it. I hope that makes sense. I think this has been shared. The metric calculation has been shared. And I want to quickly just run through before we wrap up these channels, right? So these are some of the channels that, again, using Ike as a scenario, we're going to finish using Ike. Ike will say, okay, to get my 100 opportunities, I'm going to look at partners. I'm going to partner with a lot of partners, because I talked about it in my V2 Mom. You remember partners being one of the methods. I'm going to utilize the sales GTM team says anyone in your sales go-to-market team. So I'm going to utilize my customer success. I'm going to utilize my marketing people, so everybody that I think has a network that we can target, I'm going to utilize them. So that's your sales GTM team. I'm going to ask for referrals. The customers that I signed up last year, I signed 10 customers, right? Again, to the scenario that we used, I signed 10 customers. I'm going to go to every single one of those and say, hey, how are you finding the service? How are you finding the product? Do you have anyone else in mind that we can go and talk to? Referrals are the most powerful channels. So again, you have a referral. The customers that I signed last year, I'm going to go and sell them more things, right? Maybe they bought one out of 3 things that I sell. I'm going to go and ask them to buy. So what you're doing here is you are now thinking of ways to accumulate those 100 opportunities. And already we've looked at 4 channels. So you can then put numbers to the channels. Partners, I'm expecting 10 from them. My sales go-to-market team is my core team. I'm expecting 50 from them. My referrals, I'm expecting 20 from them. That's what? 80. Existing customers, I'm expecting 20. That's 100. So you've got such a tight plan that you're so confident that you're going to get to your 100 opportunities. I'm going to leave it here. I mean, there's some stuff on the left that you can read, plan your outreach approach. They're just some guidelines and some tips. But I hope, the V2 Mom moving on to the metrics has given you some guidance on planning, understanding the metrics behind successful sales execution, and then the science behind it. I'm going to leave you with some questions. It'll be good to be able to get some answers now. If not, please, you can post your answers in the group. Take a snapshot of this, please. So The first question is, in fact, no, take a snapshot, work it out, and post your quick answers. Just in the group, just say answer to 1 is this, 2 is this, 3 is that. It's just to test your knowledge to make sure that what we just run through, makes sense. You understand. If you don't, you can hit me up privately, and we can spend maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes on it. But yeah, we're at time. I want to say a big thank you to all of you for just really being patient and unlocking a new level of skill and new muscle. I promise you, as with everything, right? If you're familiar with this concept, the stone cracker, right? They keep cracking the stone, they keep cracking it, they keep hitting it. Nothing happens. But probably the 100th hit, it breaks. And you're thinking, hold on, was it the 100th hit that did it? No, it wasn't the 100th hit that did it. It's all the 99 that was before the 100th hit is what caused it to break at that point. The same thing with like an ice cube, melting point, 32 degrees, right? Put an ice cube in a warm room of it builds up. Nothing happens until it gets to the 32 degrees, and then it's like it starts to melt. Oh wow, is it because? No, it's because it took some time to get there. What am I saying? What I'm saying is this is new. Take some time out, understand the concepts, learn, practice it, apply it to your business. And I want to leave you with the phrase, 1% improvement daily would make you 37 times better in a year, in 12 months. Improve by 1% every day, right? The rule of compounding effect. And I promise you, this is not anything revolutionary. Sales is something that we all do every day. But what you're trying to do here is you're trying to build a blueprint for your business. So it's been great talking. I want to pause there. Any questions? I think we have 3 minutes. Please ask away. Please let me get your thoughts. Please tell me what stood out for you before I hand it over to the Hyperspace team.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, this is Hayford. I have to say this in all sincerity. I'm working for some time. I haven't come across something like this. So today, this is more of like an eye opener. And then I think it will help me improve on our business model and its sales funnel and the strategy. So a very big thank you to you. With this, I'm a little bit confused, not necessarily with what you've done and what you've taught us. I'll just simply have to go over my notes again so that I'll better abreast myself. So with your permission, I don't know if your slide will be shared again on the page so that where I miss 1 or 2 things, I can reference them because it's very helpful for me. And I've been doing a different model, but your model really makes sense. And I think if I'm able to improve on this and add it to my business, when I'm talking to future investors and when I mention facts and figures, it's easy for them to really believe because it's coming from a place which is
Thank you so much, Hayford. I appreciate it. Yes, I haven't shared the slide, but I'm going to share it with Gideon and team straight after this. So yeah, you should have a copy of that. I appreciate the comments. Thank you so much.
Yeah, hello. My name is Najat from Awampara Limited Company. Thank you very much for your engagement. It's been educative and interesting. I want to ask with this one, with the questions that you are leaving us with.
Yes.
So how am I going to know what I'm calculating is the right thing? Are you going to provide answers so we can like cross-check and see whether what we are doing is the right thing?
Very good question. And thanks for your feedback. Yeah, usually we stay on and then I give the answers, but because of time, I think we're at time. I've got to wrap up now. But perhaps I'll give the answers to Gideon or Maxwell or anyone from the Hyperspace team, and then when they feel everyone is, obviously share their answer, they can post in the group. But it's 3 answers that we're looking for, 3 numbers. And yeah, I'll share that with Gideon and team.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Any more? Otherwise, I know we're bang on, and I know you guys, your time is valuable. So if not, I just want to say a big thank you again for the last 2 hours, and I look forward to the next session. The next session we're gonna talk through the actual buying process. So how do buyers think? How do you do a discovery call? How do you build a value proposition? We're getting into the actual, meat and bones of the science behind how to actually go and sell. And then we're going to go into how do you, when you we're meeting, a demonstration, how do you do all of that? But I'm going to try next time. I'm going to be a bit faster because obviously, I missed out one lesson for today. But yeah, I want to hand it over to the Happerspace team, and guys, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael. I'm very grateful. This is Maxwell here, and personally, I've really learned something new, and I'm going back again to watch the video so that I can also do something about the sales on what we do here at Happerspace. It was very insightful, and I learned a lot here as well. Yeah, sure. Yes, but before we end the section, I would want us to take a virtual selfie. So if everyone can put on their cameras, and so that we can take an online selfie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sure. And also after this session, I will upload the video online so that you